Was due to issues beyond me, kind of. All right, so where you will um, see a text like this, and then you are very likely to see that something that represent that text inside of it. So now we have road, and then let's say we have a road image, an image that represents road is now kind of embedded in that text. I'll quickly show you how it is done. However, I did not download road, so probably we have to use something else. um Hold on please. Okay, I think I'll just use this storm or wave. Yes, so I'll take this inside and change it to wave. So I'll change this text to wave. Okay, or ocean wave, something like this. Ocean wave. Okay, now as it is an ocean wave right now, quickly I will turn off the circle and the rectangle so that all we can see is ocean wave. I'm going to get them closer a little, so I'll change the line height, which is kerning in Photoshop. Kerning as in, okay, sorry, that's leading or leading, L-E-A-D-I-N-G. Okay, so as it is now, it's possible you see something like ocean wave like this, and then inside of that ocean wave text you see something like an actual wave. So what happens is, on the layer panel like this, you click on that text and import the image. So let's say we have this image, you drag it inside of Photoshop, right, and release it. Now do not forget that I had to select the text itself before bringing the image in. Then I can commit that change by pressing that mark. Then I'll do like this. I'll put it on top of this place, and I'll right click on the image that I just select create clipping mask. Okay, so I just right click like this, and then it goes inside the text. Now, do you see what has happened? The only place where you can see that ocean wave image is inside of the text itself. So if I change this gradient fill to something bluish to harmonize the design, it will be like this, or like this, or like this, something that looks like that. Or if we want to really um, get it looking like what we want, we can actually make it a gradient of white to blue. Then it's like this, but it is no longer good in terms of contrast, so we may stick to any of these, right? So now you see what happens is that, take the clipping mask. I'll do it again. So I right click on this thing, on that image layer, and then I'll click on release clipping mask. Okay, I release it, it becomes what we can see now. But if I want it to be inside, I click on it again, I right click, and then I'll click on it clipping mask. Okay, and then it goes inside the text. Okay, now we're going to do this for, now yesterday we worked on layer mask, but now we are using clipping mask. So the way it works is that when you click on a layer, if you right click on it and you select create clipping mask, in this case this is release clipping mask because it's already a clipping mask, so we can release it. Now when you click on it and you right click on it and you select create clipping mask, what you're telling Photoshop to do essentially is that put this image in any region of visibility on the next, or the um on the layer beneath it. So it will always clip that layer inside of the layer under it or beneath it. Okay, so if I had done it with, let me turn on this rectangle and turn on the circle on top of it. So I'll bring it down like this so that you can see it. And then watch what I do. If I click on this circle, I right click on it and select create clipping mask. It will only be visible inside of that rectangle. If I move it around, it will only be visible, even though based on your transform controls that you can see, you know that this circle extends beyond this rectangle, but all I can see is what is inside of the rectangle. Okay, so you won't see any other thing outside of that rectangle because you have clipped it inside of the rectangle. Do you get what I'm saying? So every other thing is gone. Every other thing is gone. Now it's not deleted, but it is hidden. So if you move this circle around, you see the other parts. Okay, you see the other parts. You see the other parts. But if you leave it the way it is only what can be. It is only visible in any region that this layer under it covers. If I make it like this, it won't get different. Okay, so that's how clipping mask works. Now let's go back to this guy, my head. So let's say my head goes like this, and it says we bring that image of ocean in here and drag it inside of Photoshop and drop it on top of the guy's head. So if I click on create clipping mask now, I right click and click on create clipping mask, that ocean will only be visible inside of the guy's head. So now, even though that is a clipping mask, I can still add a layer mask to that layer and clean off part of it. I taught you this yesterday. If you click on your brush tool and then your foreground color, if it is black, and you paint on this layer mask, it will delete that region that you are painting. Now this painting is too sharp, and I told you what can cause that yesterday. I said if your brush hardness is at 100%, it will be too sharp, so you take it down to 0% hardness and then begin to paint. So once you paint on the areas that you want to delete, and then this is what your image will look like. Okay, this doesn't really look good like that, but you get the idea. So you get the idea of what we are trying to do. So it goes inside of the layer under it. That is something that happens with clipping mask. In ocean wave, I can decide I want to delete part of this ocean wave as well, the image that I put inside the text, and then I add a layer mask and I begin to paint black on the layer mask in the regions that I don't want. Then it can go off like this. So the text itself is black, so I can change the text to white and then it will look like this. Right, you see what this looks like now. So that is clipping mask for you and the way it actually works. Okay, so you may see something like this. For example, if you are doing a design and it says fire, so let's say it says fire party, I'm going to add uh, a new artboard. So if it's a fire party now, let me copy this text. I told you that you can copy a text from one, click on it, you hold your alt button, you click and then you drag into the second artboard, and it will come inside of that artboard in the same coordinate, the same location of that artboard. All right, so we have ocean wave, but let's say we change it to fire party, something like that, and we want that fire to actually be like fire, or we want to put fire inside of it. First, you may have to look for a font that looks like fire, and even though I've forgotten now, I believe that I have a font like that actually looks like fire. What is another word for fire? Blaze. Let me see. Oh, I don't have that font again. I used to have a font like that by the name something like Blaze. So this okay. This pink blue regular looks like it. Okay. First, I'm going to change the color to like say orange, red, something like that. That actually looks like fire. To make it better, I can add a gradient overlay. So let me confirm if you can still see my screen. Oh well, yes, Oluwatobi, we can duplicate an entire artboard with its content. Yes, we can, and it's very simple. It's very easy. So you can come like this. Thank you for that question. If you click on this artboard and you hold your Alt, I think I showed you maybe 2 days ago, or 2 classes ago. If you click on it like this, artboard, you hold your Alt button on your keyboard or options on Windows, I mean on MacBook, and then you click and drag. It will duplicate the entire artboard. Okay, you can move it around wherever you want it to be. It will duplicate the entire artboard. I'm going to delete that now. Another method is having selected the artboard. I told you the shortcut for duplicating on Photoshop is Ctrl J. So if you press Ctrl J now on your keyboard, Ctrl plus J on MacBook, that will be Command and J. It will duplicate the entire artboard. The duplication process applies to any layer you select. And remember that I said even an artboard is considered a layer on its own in the layer panel, even though inside of it there are more layers. It contains some more layers in itself. It's like a group. Although a group is different from an artboard, and let me quickly just show you that. If you select a layer like this and you hold shift and select every other layer around it, you can hold your control to select another one, right? You hold shift and click, it will add to that selection. Having done this, look at the highlights. If you press on your keyboard Ctrl G, it will become a group. Can you see it just named it to group 1? So that's a group. This is different from an artboard. You cannot export a group on its own, but you can export an artboard on its own. So even though an artboard is like a group of layers, it is not exactly a group, it is an artboard. That is why when you come up here to file to export, you can't say export group to files. It will be export artboards to file, artboard to PDF, artboard to arrow. I don't even know what that means. I've never used it. Okay. So they are different. So to answer your question, yes, you can duplicate an artboard and its entire content. Okay, so having this fire now, I can say that I will, and then I'm already expanding the scope of our class. This is included in what we should cover, but we are leaving artboard gradually. Okay, so we are moving. I mean, we are leaving layer panel gradually to effects panel. So I click on that fire. This place where you have effects, FX, okay, it's called effect or layer style, okay, FX. In almost you see FX, it's usually effect. So this is in Photoshop, it is called layer style. So when you click on it, there are many layer styles that you can add. You have bevel and emboss, you have stroke. I told you what stroke is in Photoshop yesterday. That is the outline that follows any layer that you apply this style to. Then we have inner shadow, we have inner glow, we have satin, color overlay. Color overlay is you can change the color of anything, no matter what. Actually, Photoshop is very, very powerful, right? You can change the color overlay of anything. I mean, the color of anything by just using color overlay. And I'm going to do that for you now by using gradient overlay, because that's why I came here. I want that fire to look like an actual fire. Okay, so I'll bring it to gradient overlay, and then it will apply. Can you see immediately it uses the last gradient that I applied to something else? It uses it. So now this is a gradient under the layer, say gradient. However, normal fire will start from red to yellow. That's fire, 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 that kind of fire. Even though there's some cookers, some gas cookers hardly have this red, 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 especially the really good ones. It will sometimes even be blue. Okay, but we are talking about fire. Okay, So it will start from red to orange, something like that, red to yellow. So it is kind of counter, is it intuitive or counter, what's the word? It's sure unrealistic to have fire start from orange to red or yellow. Gradient, we need to switch the position of the colors. So the red will come down, the yellow will go up, and you can easily do that by clicking on reverse this checkbox. If you click on it, I'll click in one, two, and then you see the 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 colors switch their positions right with each other. You can also change direction. If I can be burning in this direction, you can go to 90 degrees right. You can change gradient direction, this angle, right? You can always change your angle. You can always change your angle. Okay, to go in that direction. And look at the preview here. This preview will tell you what your stuff looks like. Sometimes if you are using giving you a live preview outside of here. Okay, one funny thing is that you can actually bring your mouse out here to drag it down or take it up. Can you see? You can actually do that on gradient. Okay, so once you're done here, you press OK. Now we have this fire looking something, but I remember what brought us here is actually the clipping marks that we were doing. So I wanted to put the fire layer on top of this, right? I want to put the fire layer inside of it or on top of it so that it will look like an actual fire. The challenge we may have now is that based on this nation, if I open my browser, it's probably going to stress my internet. I want to download that fire icon or fire image. Let me try. If the network permits, we do it. Otherwise, I'll just assume and explain some more that you understand how these things work. So fire, I'll put PNG in front of it and search for fire in terms of PNG. So the network is doing as I expected it to do. Okay, please let me know if you can hear me. There is some network issue already. Okay, it's not gonna close the browser, but if we add a fire layer, a fire image, we can easily put it inside of this thing. Now there is a little trick on Photoshop. Once you add an effect to or a style to a layer, just like I did with this fire text, I added a gradient overlay on it. If you perform a clipping mask operation on this thing, it is not going to reflect. So I'm going to copy this layer, this ocean layer from here. I'm going to copy it by holding Alt on my keyboard, clicking on it and dragging it to the top, then releasing my mouse before releasing the Alt. Please always release your mouse first. Then I release it, then it comes to this side. If this were fire, which I can actually try to make it become, let me see if I can do that. So I'll go to adjustment layer and then I go to saturation and then I select I click on this icon, I click on this place, I tap on it. Right, immediately I tap on it, it says blues. So I'm going to drag my slider up here or down here. Hopefully we get a color that looks like it. We don't. I can do one more thing. I can do a solid color which is red, and I'm just going to change the blending mode so like this. I'm trying to do like a magician, because why am I trying to change water to fire? So if I change the blending mode to this is overlay, it won't really look like fire, but you get the gist, right? So now how we got here is that I'll just delete those two adjustment layers. I delete them. How we got here is that we are trying to Now look at this thing. I'm trying to delete. I press delete on my keyboard, but it's not responding. Right? It's not responding. The reason for that is, look up here where you have this overlay. When you just select a layer, a blending mode, this place is called blending mode. When you just select it like this, the blue mark around that particular blending mode will also still be there, so it's active. So if you press delete on your keyboard, it will interpret you as saying that you want to delete this particular hue, this particular blending mode, rather than the layer that you actually intend to delete. So what you can do is, you can use this delete button down here. You can click on this delete button, and then it asks you if you want to delete it, and then I'll press don't show again, so that it will not ask me the next time, and then I delete. Okay, so that's the way that works. So I was saying that once you apply a layer style to a particular layer and you try to clip something in it, there are some layer styles that will still allow you to clip something in it, like stroke, like outer glow, even inner glow. But a layer style like gradient overlay or color overlay will not allow you. So I'm going to right click now and try to clip it. Good. I have done the clipping mask, but I can't see the layer. Watch it. Watch what happens when I turn off that gradient overlay. I'll turn off that effect by clicking this eye icon. Now look at the hierarchy in this place. There is an eye icon in this place for the entire layer. Then there is another eye icon for the effect layer. That's why Photoshop did not and put them here. In fact, gradients overlay is low in rank to effect. So the eye stays here on the effect, and then it moves forward. There's like an indentation here where this eye icon goes forward some more. So if I turn off this one, everything in the layer will go away. However, if I turn off gradient, the effect will still be there. So if I have another effect, let's say I will add a stroke. I'll add a stroke to it. Let me make it blue so that this thing can really look ugly. So if I turn off, I can turn off the stroke and the gradient will be there. I can turn off the gradient and the stroke will still be there. Look at it now. We have the stroke, but I can turn on the gradient. Now we have the stroke and the gradient, and I can turn off the stroke. We have the gradient without the stroke. Okay. So let's say now that I turn off any of these effects, right, or the style. The effect is still on. Any effect that I have not turned off will still be there. So if I turn off the effect, everything will go away. Okay, so that is about the rank. The moment I turned off the gradient overlay, you can see the ocean that I clipped into the fire. But once I activate that gradient overlay, the stroke, I mean, the overlay, the clipping mask will not be visible. It is the way Photoshop works. So what is the solution for this? The solution I often use is that I can turn off this effect, right? Then inside I will draw a rectangle on top of this fire. I select it this way, draw a rectangle, and then I draw it this way. Now because this is tricky, before I drew that rectangle, the I'll delete it. Let me delete it. I've deleted it now. The layer on top of this fire has already been clipped inside the fire. So if I click on this fire and I draw anything, or I type anything, or I import anything, it will automatically be clipped inside of that fire because the one on top of it is clipped. So there is no way. It's like I am a lid. I put a lid on top of a bottle. I cover it. Then I want to put something in that bottle, and I'm saying that the lid should still be there, but that thing I want to put on top of that bottle should not be covered. It is not practical. It is not workable. So what happens is, you can put the once you select this fire, which is like the container, and you import anything or anything, if there is a clipping mask on top of it, automatically that thing that you imported or that you drew will be clipped inside of that layer as well, right? So that's what is happening here. So now how we got here is that if we use the gradient map, everything we clipped will not be visible, but we still want that color of the gradient map, and we cannot apply a gradient to a text directly from this fill. You can only apply a solid. So what you do is I will bring in this rectangle and change the color of that rectangle to that gradient. So I put that gradient on it. I'll change the direction, and then so right now it is not the fire that carries the gradient, it is the rectangle that we clipped inside of that fire that has the gradient. And then now we can easily see the ocean wave that we also clipped inside. So that is one way of doing it. Now it is gradient overlay that does that, but affect it. Gradient overlay and what's the word? Gradient overlay and color overlay. I think those two, right? So that is the way that works. I hope that you understand. Okay. Okay. All right, Toby. Thank you for staying around. So I will refresh this page. The network is funny. It's funny as always. For a 5G network, this is preposterous. All right. So let's move on. So what we can do now is to progress from where we are. So we have talked about the hierarchy and visibility. We have talked about clipping mask. There are many things that you can do. We have talked about clipping mask. So let's move on to um, some other thing. Now, one reason I mentioned that clipping mask is that there are many things you may want to do on your layer that you will need. Let me show you some photo manipulations that I think I did in the past. And by the way, I'm going to have another course coming up soon, maybe sometimes middle of February, where I'm going to be teaching graphic design as a course on its own, not just Photoshop, but I'll be teaching graphic design with Photoshop. I'll be teaching you with Photoshop, and then some photo editing as well, as a course with main focus on what we are doing. Where is I'm looking for the actual source file, and I think I may have deleted it. Hold on, please. Oh, I think I may have deleted this file. It's on my second laptop, but I have a folder for some photo manipulations I've done before. So let's check this. Right. I think I named this crackhead, and I don't even know why I did. Now look at this edge, and I hope you can see my screen. Oh, this is funny. What is happening with my network? I'm almost discouraged with this network. Ooh. Let's just continue. Make do with what we can have. Now, look at this photo manipulation. This is an instance of using clipping mask. This crack on the face was something I downloaded from Photoshop, I mean from internet, and I put it inside. Okay, I put it inside the head, and I limited it with layer mask to this face and then to this side of the face. Nothing is cracked on the left hand side, but on the right hand side something is cracked. Also, you see that the color on the left hand side is cool, and the color on the right hand side is warm. That is another example of clipping mask and using layer mask to delete regions that you don't pull off of that. Now let me look for another photo manipulation I did. Yes, this one, same thing. clipping mask allowed me to put some of these things inside this bulb so it doesn't go outside of the bulb. Imagine that I want it to express that there is water, I mean like an ocean in the bulb, and it's now spilling out. It wouldn't make sense, so it has to be inside. So clipping mask may do that. Even though I laugh at myself when I see this, but this is the very first photo manipulation I did on Photoshop. Okay, and then let me show you maybe two more, and then we move on. This Thunder Fire You that I did about the time that song was trending, and then this illusion that I did. Oh, sorry. Let me just open this first. Look at this. I put Rikasani inside this box and then put him inside this box, and I limit the coverage to this region. So it's only clipping mask or layer mask that can help you do this kind of thing. I put him up here as well. So it's like a box of thunder that somebody is presenting to another person that, oh, take thunder fire, something like that. I think you know the guy's song. I suppose you know his song, Rikasani. Maybe someone broke his heart because for somebody to be singing, to go from singing Gentleman to Thunder Fire, something must have happened. Okay, now look at the final one I want to show you. I have a number of photo manipulations, it's just that they're on my second laptop. Look at this. This is something that shows um, this plane turning to a fish when it falls into the water, and then there are fishes inside, there's a rock inside, there is a ship or boat on top of it, there is this fire from top, and all of that. This is you can't do this without using a lot of clipping mask, because the field that you see on this view of the box is not the same thing I see on this side. On this side, it's a road that is going forward, right? There's not the same thing that you see here that you see here, so they must be clipped inside of one another. Now, another practical example of using clipping mask I'm going to show you, and then maybe this is where the class will end because of your time and my time too, so that we don't wear one another out and then it doesn't get boring. I dislike boredom a lot. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to say that um, in Photoshop. So let's go back to this image. No, this hair. Let's say I want this guy. I'm going to do this ocean on his head, and on the background, I want the background to be something bluish. Let me use a gradient color. A gradient. I want it to be this blue or this. I don't even know now, but I want it like, okay, let's use this. So one thing you can do with gradient or clipping mask and layer mask is that, we already removed the background of this guy, but I want one part of his body to have one color and the other part of his body to have a different color. So what I will do is I'm going to draw, or I'm going to add an adjustment layer. This is your adjustment layer. This is where you add solid color that can fill the entire page, gradient, patterns, brightness, entire brightness of the page, levels, curves, exposure. I encourage you to experiment with these things. I can't teach you everything in just 5 days, right? I encourage you to experiment with these things so that you know what can work, and then somehow you can even run into something that you need. You get so and that's one of the ways I learned. So I'm going to add a solid color. I want a part of his head to show like a blue color. Okay, I'm going to select this blue, and then now we can see everything now as blue because this is a color fill. It will cover the entire artboard. Okay, so but we have a layer mask on it. Automatically when you create an adjustment layer, it comes with a layer mask, but it will be white so you can see everything that you've just done. So what I'm going to do first is to right click and create a clipping mask. Remember that the guy is directly under it. The layer for the guy's picture is directly under this one, so it is easy to create a clipping mask on it. But if anything were between the head and then the the layer that I want to clip, it will fall into this text rather than the head. So look at it. I create a clipping mask like this. It falls into that my head. So that's not what we want to do. I'll undo, and then it's like this now. The head is under the head. So I mean the text is under the head. So we just right click on the color fill and create clipping mask. So it falls into the guy's head. It covers everything. But don't worry, this is not where it ends. So I'm going to change the blending mode. Blending modes are, look at this place where we have normal. If you click on it, right, blending modes, all of these things that you see here are called blending modes, and they kind of affect how a layer blends into the one under it. That's just the simple way to explain it. There are many modes there. It tells you how, depending on the lighting, the darkness, the overlay, all of stuff like that, they tell you what, I mean, how the layer on top that you are working with blends with the ones under it. Just watch. If you move your mouse over each one, it will show you what it look like. Look at this: darken, and we have multiply, we have color burn, we have linear burn, we have darker color, lighten, we have screen, we have color dodge, linear dodge, lighter color, overlay, soft light, add light, vivid light, linear light, and so on and so forth. That reminds me of my secondary school. Right. Then we have hue, we have saturation, we have color. Color is the one I'm going to use. Now, this color has filled everywhere. So what I will do now is I'll click on my layer mask. I hope you can hear me. Uh, this internet is funny. Okay. So I click on my layer mask right here. Yesterday I told you that you can use your gradients to um, work on your layer mask to delete some part, and I said you should change it to black, this black, transparency black. And then I click on my layer mask, and then I drag from here to clean it this way. I drag it like this, and then it's not enough for me. I drag it from middle. Yeah, it's getting better. I drag it like this. So we have this blue on this side, right? Or let me undo so that it enters some more. Yeah, we have this blue from this side, and we can reduce the opacity to make it smaller, I mean to make it less uh colorful like this. Then it looks like, so we have deleted it from this other part. Then I want another color on the left hand side. So the trick or the quick way to do it is to duplicate this color fill layer, this adjustment layer, by pressing Ctrl J. It becomes two, right? Now once I duplicate it, it is no longer clipped into the uh, layer, so I have to right click and clip it again, right? So you can clip multiple layers into one particular layer. Okay, you can clip multiple layers into one. Then this one right now, we have the blue, but I want it on the other side. The first thing I'll do is to click on the layer mask and invert it by pressing Ctrl I. So I'm going to press Ctrl I, and then it inverts and goes to the other side. So what happens is that when you press Ctrl I, look at this two layer mask. This one starts from white to black. This one starts from black to white. So when you invert a layer mask, it will switch the positioning of the white and the black part. The white part and black part, the position will be changed. So what I'll do now is to change the color of this second one. If I double click now, it will open my color picker, and then I can look for the color I want. So let's say I select this one, and then we have it this way. So if I take it down, I will reduce the opacity as well to somewhere around 50, and this is what we now have. Then let me change this gradient fill under to something darker, like this is not so dark. Let's go to something black. I'm going to add a black here, black, and I'm going to add a red on the other side. Oh, that's a mistake. I'll delete that. I'll add a red here. red. It's supposed to be from black to red. Angle angle is like this. Let's change it to we change it to radial, and this is almost scattering our work, and change it to 0 in the angle. Change it to 0. Reduce the scale. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So now you can press OK. This is not exactly what I wanted. Okay. I wanted the red to be in the middle and the black to be on the sides. So this way, yeah, good. Reduce it. Yeah. So it goes like this. And then my head, we change the color to, let's say we use white. Yeah. So kind of looks like what I had in mind. Even though the red is a little too much, I can reduce it this way. I come here, double click, and then I take it down some. Or we even try blue. Yeah. You can try blue or something in the middle like this. No. The blue kind of, yeah. So we have this. Now look at what happened to that color. I'm going to turn off one of the my head or reduce the opacity. Okay, to like let's say 10, and probably change the color to maybe red or blue, something like that. That is not almost invisible. Okay, so you can see what these two adjustment layers helped us to achieve. The blue and the not even that red. Let's try red and see what happens. It's too much, so let's just cancel. Okay, if I turn the two of them off, it will be like this. This is the image at its normal state, but look at when I turn them on, this is what we have now. Okay, so you can use adjustment layers to do a lot of things. You can achieve a lot of things using your adjustment layers, and I want you to also experiment with them. Once you experiment with the adjustment layers, experiment with the effects or layers, you are almost ready to start doing um, amazing designs. Okay, let's turn off the text and see this is what we have. So we can do this. If you're online, you can experiment with this and send a screenshot to the group. At this point, I think we may close now. Now, I expect that after this training, you should be able to organize your Photoshop. You should be able to use any of these tools, add text, import images, add text. Uh, you should be able to add layer styles. Some of them, at least I've shown you how to add stroke, how to add gradient overlay. Um, there's color overlay beside the stroke, beside the gradient overlay. And then I've shown you the adjustment layer, a little of blending modes, and those are the things you actually need. So what can you be doing after now? You can be trying out simple designs. Simple designs like this one I gave you yesterday. Nobody has submitted it yet. Stuff like this are simple to do. You have the text, you put a gradient on top of it, that is gradient overlay. You add a white stroke on it. You import the picture you want to use. I actually sent you this image yesterday. Import the picture you want to use. You can put this yellow background or the orange background. Put the shadow with your brush tool, which I already taught you, and then you can achieve simple designs like this. All right, so simple things like having your color, having your text, importing picture, removing backgrounds. I also showed you how to remove backgrounds, I think in our second or so class. That was when we did this image, remove the background for this image. So you can do stuff like that, and you can start growing from there. All right, if you are still around, um, you can always watch out for next maybe next week, I'm going to tell you about the advance to hold very soon, and you can also stay on the group. I'm going to announce it there as well. Thank you for so far. If you have any questions, um, nothing stops you from asking. You can actually enter my DM, or you can ask on the group. It's been a good time doing this. I feel really fulfilled because I've wanted to do this for a long time. And thank you for also staying along. It's been a good ride. All right, I'm going to see you soon, whenever, wherever. Have a good time. Good night, everyone. Thank you.